Listen, I'm not even the type who believes in trying to humble somebody or pull them back into their past just to make a point. That's not what this is about. But the way she's been flexing this new money? It's a lot. It's loud. And honestly, it's kind of wild. She's moving like she's been sitting on generational wealth her entire life, like the riches have always been there. But let's be real for a second, we've all seen the receipts. The internet doesn't forget. We know the backstory. We know the timeline. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with coming from humble beginnings. In fact, that's something to be proud of. Building yourself up from the ground and leveling up financially is a win. Nobody should shame that. What makes it messy, though, is when you start clowning other people for not having what you literally just acquired. That's where it gets sideways. It hits different when someone who just stepped into wealth starts talking down on others who are still grinding. There's a difference between celebrating your success and using it as a weapon to belittle somebody else. And that line? It's been looking real blurry lately.
And I got a good man. Yeah, talk to me. Talk to me. You still broke. You still broke. It's just miserable and sad. That's all they doing. That's you wish you can be in place. You doing all that. You doing all that. Yes, my life is very peaceful. Who is this who said that? Kel. Yes, my life is very, very, very peaceful. I live in a 7-bedroom house. I got a pool in the back with a basketball court. I got a gym in the basement. I got millions of dollars. I can buy what I want. Yeah. All that. And I'm happy as and I got a good man. Yeah, talk to me. There you go. It's nothing that just how y'all can write words and y'all can make posts in capitals and y'all can blaze and y'all can post old pictures. I can't.
She really does love to put her wealth on full display, like this money didn't just start rolling and not too long ago. The way she flaunts it, you'd think she's been sitting on old money for generations. And honestly, it's uncomfortable to watch. Especially when you brand yourself as someone who inspires young black girls, someone who talks about breaking barriers and uplifting the community, only to turn around and shame people who aren't financially where you are. How do you preach empowerment out of one side of your mouth, but look down on folks out of the other? That math just isn't mathing. It's giving performative. It's giving selective compassion. And if we're being completely real, the money is so fresh it hasn't even had time to breathe. It hasn't settled. It hasn't matured. Yet she still moves with this chip on her shoulder, like she's fighting ghosts from her struggle days instead of evolving past them. And here's the part that really gets me. Imagine if, back when she was down bad and trying to figure it out, people had poverty shamed her. Imagine if they laughed at her situation or belittled her for not having it like that. She would have called it out immediately. She would have said it was unfair, hateful, wrong. And she would have been right. But now that she's leveled up a little bit, she's turning around and doing the exact same thing to other people. That's the contradiction nobody wants to address. Meanwhile, her fan base, and let's be honest, they go hard, expects everyone else to extend her grace no matter what she says or how she says it. They want understanding. They want patience. They want people to remember where she came from. But that same grace? She doesn't always hand it out. And that double standard is exhausting. Miss me with that. The bigger issue here is that Claressa has been rubbing people the wrong way lately. And not just a little bit, I'm talking real bad. The tone, the attitude, the energy, it's been shifting. Even some of her own supporters are starting to side-eye the behavior. You can see it in the comments. You can hear it in the conversations. People are talking, and they're not whispering either. They're openly saying her attitude feels like it's spiraling. Folks are getting tired. The goodwill is thinning out. And at some point, we have to stop pretending this is just haters and start looking at the pattern. Because what her most loyal fans keep brushing aside, it deserves to be unpacked. So yeah, it's time to really break this down, the behavior, the contradictions, and the parts her fan base keeps conveniently ignoring.
Baby next year. We already have it planned out. I'm gonna have a baby next year. And then after I go through my stuff, then I'll come back and fight some more, and then probably have another one, and then do the same thing again. Like, I don't want to wait till I'm, 40, 43, whatever, after my career to have my kids.
Right.
I want to be able to run at the park with my kids and stuff like that. I don't want to be too old. So I think that keeping my body in shape, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I think that'll also help me too while I'm going through this whole body and life changing stuff.
Right.
And let's talk about what really set the timeline on fire. Because Ray's patience. It looked like it officially ran out today. She wasn't about to sit back quietly anymore. She clapped back, subtle but sharp, and made it crystal clear she is not feeling Claressa's antics at all. No confusion. No mixed signals. Just energy that said, enough. Remy showed, plain as day, that she sees exactly what the rest of us have been clocking for weeks now. In the clip floating around, you can see her posted up with her crew, relaxed, unbothered, in her element. Her girl Juga is there looking flawless as always, the rest of the ladies vibing, everybody polished, everybody poised. It's giving grown woman energy. It's giving secure. Now pause and peep the contrast. When Ray steps out with her circle, the vibe feels classy. It feels fun. It feels like genuine sisterhood, real bonds, real laughs, no forced theatrics. But when Claressa pops out, the energy shifts. It's more posted with the goons, more aggressive, more performative. And people can't help but notice the difference. It's like, girl, relax. But let's get back to the heart of it. Remy was clearly not here for what looked like copycat behavior. And when she responded, even indirectly, the internet lit up. This wasn't quiet shade. This was the kind of subtle jab that echoes. The kind that has everybody rewinding clips and dissecting captions. The shade out here? It runs deep. And this particular moment had the commentary section going crazy. Now, to be fair, most of the online discussion made it clear this wasn't about personal attacks. People were critiquing what's been publicly displayed. They were reacting to patterns, not inventing narratives. And one thing that kept coming up was how Claressa's recent behavior feels staged. Almost theatrical. Every few minutes, she's bringing up her pregnancy. The topic keeps resurfacing. But instead of feeling soft or heartfelt, the delivery comes across cold. Detached. There's a sharpness to her tone that doesn't exactly scream warmth or maternal glow. Instead of joy, it feels like emphasis. Like she's trying to drive a point home. A lot of viewers pointed out that the way she talks about expecting a baby sounds less like celebration and more like she's proving something. Almost like it's a message directed at someone specific rather than a personal milestone she's savoring. And that's where eyebrows started raising. Because typically, pregnancy is viewed as sacred. Emotional. Especially when it's intentional and deeply desired. There's usually vulnerability attached to it. Gratitude. But in this situation, many people feel like the presentation is forced. Rehearsed. As if the sincerity got lost somewhere between the captions and the camera angles. And then there's the theory that's been gaining traction, that Claressa's energy might be rooted in an unspoken rivalry with Remy. That's what a growing number of observers are starting to believe. They're connecting dots. They're picking up on subtext. Think about it. Claressa constantly emphasizing her youth while highlighting her pregnancy. For some, that reads like a subtle jab. Especially considering Ray's very public journey to motherhood. Remy waited years. She shared her IVF struggles openly. She talked about the heartbreak, the patience, the emotional toll. And when she finally had her golden child, it felt earned. It felt celebrated. So when Claressa discusses her pregnancy with that pointed tone, some viewers interpret it as shade. Not outright, not obvious, but simmering. Like there's a quiet competition bubbling under the surface that neither side has directly acknowledged. It doesn't stop there. People have also noticed that many of Claressa's comments about older women, or women getting surgeries, feel oddly specific. Especially since Ray has only ever publicly addressed having a breast reduction. Nothing more. Yet somehow, The narrative keeps getting pushed that she's had all this extensive work done. And the part that's raising eyebrows? Claressa and some of her most loyal fans seem to amplify that storyline. Over and over. At a certain point, it stops sounding like observation and starts sounding like envy wrapped in commentary. Whether intentional or not, the optics aren't great. The undertones are loud. And the internet is paying attention to every word, every glance, every perceived jab. What we're witnessing doesn't feel random anymore. It feels layered. It feels strategic. And if there really is a rivalry brewing beneath the surface, it's no longer subtle.
Definitely think she is in competition with Remy. I mean, if he's your man, you shouldn't be in competition, but I mean, he's your man, but he's her husband. They haven't got a divorce for a reason.
Is the competition the baby?
No.
How else can Remy compete?
Of it is. I think all of it. I think that's why she's saying, I'm going to have a baby.
Now here's another layer people keep bringing up. Even if Remy had decided to get enhancements, even if she chose to tweak or upgrade anything, most folks are saying it honestly wouldn't change a thing. She would still look incredible. Period. At her age, Ray carries herself with a level of confidence and poise that naturally outshines a lot of the so-called competition. It's effortless. It's mature. It's grounded. And if we're being honest, that glow seems to irritate Claressa more than anything cosmetic ever could. Because let's clear something up, this was never really about looks. That's just the surface distraction. The deeper issue people are noticing is Claressa's constant need to line herself up next to Remy. It's the side-by-side energy. The subtle comparisons. The slick little parallels that are meant to feel strategic but end up revealing more insecurity than dominance. When you keep trying to measure yourself against someone else, it stops looking competitive and starts looking personal. And here's what's interesting. Older audiences? They're not confused. They see right through it. They recognize the patterns. They've watched this play out before in different industries, different eras. They know what unnecessary rivalry looks like. They know what performative confidence looks like. And they're calling it exactly that. A performance. A lot of commentators have pointed out that the backlash probably wouldn't even be this intense if Claressa carried herself with the same steady composure Remy does. Remy moves calmly, but don't get it twisted, it's powerful. She doesn't overshare. She doesn't over-explain. She doesn't flood timelines trying to prove she's winning. Her presence speaks before she even says a word. When Remy highlights something, it's usually her accomplishments. Her expanding business ventures. Her creative projects. Her steady climb. She spotlights the work. She showcases the wins. And then she lets it breathe. That restraint? That's what earns respect. People gravitate toward quiet confidence because it feels secure. Now, to be fair, Claressa has more than enough to celebrate on her own. Her athletic achievements are undeniable. Her discipline, her hunger, her influence, all real. All earned. She's built a name for herself through grit and talent. Nobody can take that away from her. But instead of amplifying those victories, lately it feels like she's been stuck in comparison mode. Matching outfits that mirror Ray's aesthetic. Referencing similar themes in interviews. Subtle nods to her relationship, even dropping hints about her partner Pap being upstairs as if it's coded messaging. And when those hints feel timed or placed right after something Remy posts, people notice. That fixation starts to overshadow the genuine accomplishments. Instead of headlines celebrating her latest win, the conversation shifts to who she's allegedly trying to outdo. And that's the frustrating part. Because when you let comparison dominate your narrative, it drowns out your authentic success. At some point, the obsession with proving something becomes louder than the actual proof. And right now, that's the energy many people are picking up on.
And keep saying it because she's jealous of the baby. I think that's why she's saying my body T. She's jealous of how Remy looks. She don't look like that. I'm just been saying Claressa's not an ugly girl, but let's just be truthful. We got eyes. Remy looks better than Claressa. I don't care how young Claressa is. Remy looks better than her. And so I think that's what all that I didn't never have surgery. I have because she's in competition with his wife.
At this point, People aren't even talking about her championships or professional milestones anymore. That part of the conversation has faded into the background. Instead, the spotlight has shifted almost entirely to what many are calling her unusual fixation on Remy and the defensive tone she carries every time the topic comes up. The wins aren't trending, the tension is. And that's never a good trade-off. A growing number of observers believe that if this pattern keeps repeating, it won't be long before Claressa's reputation takes a noticeable hit. Not because of her talent. Not because of her resume. But because perception matters. And right now, perception is starting to tilt in a direction she may not be able to control. One detail that keeps resurfacing in this entire situation, and it's a big one, is how hesitant Papoose was at the very beginning to be publicly linked with Claressa at all. People close to the story have repeatedly said he had zero interest in putting that relationship under a public microscope. He didn't want headlines. He didn't want commentary. He didn't want timelines dissecting every move. In fact, the only reason the public even became aware of their connection was because Remy chose to expose it herself. And when she did, it sent shockwaves. It completely flipped the narrative. Before that moment, insiders say Papoose was comfortable keeping everything low-key, operating quietly while still legally tied to remyma. That level of discretion allowed him to move strategically, handle business meetings, build connections, manage projects, without his personal life being ripped apart online. Staying in the shadows gave him freedom. But Remy wasn't willing to let that secrecy slide. She pulled the curtain back. Loudly. Clearly. And once she did, there was no putting that genie back in the bottle. The truth was out, and the dynamic between old and new became impossible to ignore. Suddenly, what had once been private became public conversation. And once the spotlight hit, the behavior started shifting. Claressa, who initially seemed to value keeping things discreet, began sharing glimpses of their relationship online. Meanwhile, Papoose appeared to retreat from that same spotlight. Claressa has even admitted herself that Papoose doesn't enjoy heavy social media attention. But here's where fans point out the inconsistency. When he was with Remy, he showed up. Publicly. Proudly. Smiling for cameras. Supporting openly. He wasn't hiding upstairs. He wasn't ducking lenses. He wasn't avoiding being seen. Now, the narrative feels different. He's described as staying out of frame. Not sitting down to eat on camera. Keeping his distance whenever phones come out. And to many observers, that shift speaks volumes. It paints the picture of a man uncomfortable in a spotlight he didn't ask for, paired with a woman who seems determined to keep that spotlight glowing no matter what. Some analysts watching this unfold believe Claressa might unknowingly be laying the groundwork for her own heartbreak. Every rant. Every emotional post. Every defensive live stream. Each one feels like documentation. And documentation can easily become justification later. People aren't necessarily rooting against her. That's not the energy. What they're doing is recognizing a pattern. Older fans and industry insiders have seen this script before. The oversharing, the public tension, the mounting pressure. And they're quietly saying the signs look familiar. The constant online drama may end up being the very reason Papoose finds it easier to walk away. Because when your private relationship becomes public entertainment, cracks widen faster. Respect erodes. Privacy disappears. And strong relationships need both to survive. If that breaking point ever arrives, many predict his reasoning will be simple and direct. I told you I didn't like this. I told you I don't want people in my business. Those words wouldn't need to be dramatic. They'd hit hard precisely because he's allegedly been signaling discomfort from the start. So if a split does happen, and plenty of people believe it's only a matter of time, it likely won't look chaotic from his side. Papoose could step away claiming he stayed consistent with his boundaries. Meanwhile, Claressa might be left explaining to followers how things unraveled so quickly. This isn't about manifesting doom. It's about recognizing a storyline that has played out too many times before. And sometimes, when you've seen enough cycles, you can spot the ending forming before the final chapter is written. Commentators have also noticed something else. Claressa's behavior doesn't just impact her image, it unintentionally gives Remy and critics extra material. The more she reacts, the easier it becomes for others to stay silent and let her actions speak. Remy, on the other hand, rarely needs to say much. Her presence does the talking. She carries herself with a quiet confidence that fills the room without forcing it. And every time Claressa appears to mirror her style or energy, the contrast becomes sharper instead of softer. It's also clear that Claressa has attracted supporters who resonate with her rough-around-the-edges persona. Some fans see her as proof that you can rise up without polishing every corner of yourself. And that's powerful in its own way. But growth isn't imitation. Evolution requires refinement, not rivalry. Watching her navigate fame through visible competition only reinforces how fast the internet can flip admiration into ridicule when authenticity feels shaky. Then came the moment that truly shifted everything into viral territory. Remyma appeared courtside, effortlessly styled in a custom, one-of-a-kind outfit. Cameras flashed. She turned slightly, smiled, and playfully said, "You can't copy this because it's custom, baby." Instant eruption. The crowd reacted. Social media exploded. Within minutes, clips were everywhere. Fans joked that Claressa would be scrambling to recreate the look within days. That single sentence became a meme, a flex, and what many interpreted as a warning shot, all wrapped into one perfectly timed moment. Now timelines are buzzing with predictions. Watch her try to find that exact fit. Who wore it better post coming soon. The irony? Claressa may believe she's dominating the fashion back and forth, but critics argue it's only amplifying the perception that she's trying too hard to keep pace. What once might have looked like playful competition now feels like insecurity on display. And Remy doesn't even have to overexert herself to appear ahead. That courtside moment was pure entertainment gold. People replayed it repeatedly, calling it chef's kiss perfection. The timing, the delivery, the subtle shade. Everything aligned. It was drama without shouting. Confidence without chaos. Timelines filled instantly. Comment sections overflowed. Some viewers laughed. Others gasped. But nearly everyone agreed it was one of those blink and you miss it cultural moments that deserved a second watch just to catch every layer. As the dust begins to settle, one thing stands out clearly. This ongoing saga between Remy and Claressa isn't just about outfits or headlines. It's about presence. About maturity. About understanding when to move with grace instead of ego. The fanbase is divided, the energy online is electric, and both sides are waiting for the next move. So if you've been following this story and you're invested in these breakdowns, don't just scroll past. Head straight to the comments and let your voice be heard. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss what drops next. And even if this particular tea wasn't your flavor, stick around. Around here, there's always something brewing, something that'll keep you watching, analyzing, and coming back for more.